Well, on the subject of Canada's productivity, we've been talking a lot recently about what sometimes feels like a tension between investing in real estate. Sometimes you have no choice in Canada's hot housing market, and investing in other productive areas for the economy. And we've got some charts to show what's been happening in the country. First of all, we want to show you, check out the amount of money essentially that Canada has had to put towards home ownership. And then as part of that, things like renovation, compared to investments in areas that you sometimes hear businesses talking about, investing in machinery and equipment and building IP. When you look over the last 6 decades, it's been a remarkable change in spending. And when you compare those numbers to not only the US, but also countries like Australia, you can see that the amount Canada has been investing in areas like housing is outpacing peers. Meanwhile, our investments in manufacturing and technology have been lagging. So let's get some more perspective from Charles St. Arnaud. He's chief economist at Alberta Central and helped to put together this data, which does help to give us something to work with, Charles, for a conversation that is increasingly getting national attention. What prompted you to want to do this?
Well, I think there's two things. One is we need to take into account that in an economy, we have finite resources. And at the basis, for someone to be able to invest, so for a business to buy new machinery, they often need funding for it. And if you have a big sector like households who are actually absorbing all the available saving and funding to buying houses and mortgages, then there's nothing left for businesses to invest in productive matters.
And we showed there are countries around the world that also are navigating this kind of issue. Australia would be a great example, and yet it still looked like at the end of the day, our numbers on how much gets spent towards the housing world versus how much can go towards building businesses, that there is a difference there. What do you make of that?
Well, I think one of the issues, and we've seen it, and it's been more acute since the mid to late 90s, is that we've seen the share of renovation and homeownership transfer as a part of GDP increasing dramatically, while at the same time we've seen the share of investment in what I would call more productive factors like investment in machinery, equipment, and intellectual property has been consistently declined to a point where now we're spending about the same level of GDP. So that kind of suggests that we're putting more money towards less to close to non-productive matters at the expense of not putting money into what would generate our productivity.
So do you think at the end of the day, because the story of productivity, we've been blabbing about this for a very long time, but we're definitely talking about it again now. How much of our productivity challenge do you think ultimately ties back to this housing, at least over the last 15 years, how much ties directly, do you think, to this housing pickle?
Well, there's actually a big tie. If we go, the chart was too complicated to show on TV, but if we look at the financial flows out of the national account, it separates between who's a net lender, so who's saving and providing the money versus who's actually using it. And what we've seen over the past 50 years of data, so you go back to the late 60s, is that we've seen consistently corporations not borrowing any money. So in the 80s and 90s, they were crowded out by big government deficits. That's pretty much kind of the classic economic theory that would suggest that big deficits kind of drain all the available saving away for corporations. But then as we got into the surplus era of the mid 90s to the late 90s, instead of seeing corporates coming up, what we saw is that we saw massive borrowing from consumers. Actually, consumers are borrowing the equivalent of 3.5% of GDP every year on average since then, and with peak at 5.5%. So the thinking here is that we probably have a household sector that's basically crowding out the business sector by absorbing all the available lending in the economy.
Charles, at the end of the day, you hear people say one of the solutions to the housing market is we just need more homes, especially if part of our growth strategy is to have a growing number of new Canadians. Just build more. Can we, do you think, successfully build more? And if we were to build more, because people are skeptical about our ability to build enough to meet demand, would that help address the productivity issue at the end of the day?
The problem not is that the danger we have is that we need a lot of investable fund over the next decade. So we need a lot of money to create new homes to solve some of the affordability issue, but we also need to make sure that businesses have also funding to increase their stock of capital and become more productive. So there'll be a competition between the two. So unless we kind of incentivize more saving in the economy to finance those investments, I think we might end up falling short on both sides.
And at the end of the day, does, if we're talking about competitiveness with countries like the United States, if we don't solve these matters, does that gap widen?
That's the thing. If we don't improve our productivity, we'll continue to fall behind. And it's not just against the U.S. Even if we look because the U.S. is a good example because they're always a leader in productivity and we should be benchmarking ourselves. But we should be looking also at other small industrial economy because that's what Canada is. We have to compete against that. Like the U.S. has a big internal market which help with their productivity. But even if we compare ourselves to Sweden, Denmark, Norway, we're also falling short right away. And even Australia, which is probably our closest cousin, we're falling behind those countries. And that's a big concern.
Well, we